Now, for the WBS, we had 4 important phases, and in each phase there were several activities and steps that we carry out. For the first one is the phase 1, that is initiation or project management plan. In this one, we define the project objectives, identifying the internal and external factors, and the schedule of activities. For the second phase, it is definition and plan, and specifically the risk plan. In this one, we identify the necessary resources, we analyze the possible risks, and create several scenarios for and the possible solutions of these scenarios. We also, in this phase, it was important to develop the budgeting plan. In this one, we try to reflect the necessary data, the necessary financial data, and the cost of each material or activity. We also estimate the cost for each activity, and we create the different scenarios based on the budget that we have. For the phase 3, it is the control and performance. In this one, we had the quality plan, the communications plan, the stakeholders plan, and for the quality plan, we register the materials and activities, acquire the necessary quality and safety certifications, and supervise evolution of process from the respective authorities. For the communications plan, we registered the stakeholders and team contacts, identify information and the needs of the environment, and establish the important communication channels. And for the stakeholders plan, we registered the stakeholders, we identified the company's assets, and generate agreements with the stakeholders. And for the last phase, that is the phase number 4, that is completion of continental expansion project. For this one, we only had one important part, that is the construction of the warehouse. And in this one, it was all the basic things. We obtain the raw materials and machinery, we recruit the right personnel, build the plant, install the necessary services such as light, water, and electricity, and we recruit the personnel for the adequate functioning of the work.
Now, as we know, every project must have an order and time. So for our schedule, we consider the start date for the project to be November 1st, 2021. And according to different activities and processes that will be carried out, we estimate that the project will conclude on October 2nd, 2022. From the distribution of the schedule, we can highlight milestones such as completing the administrative and design phases, obtaining project approval, securing permits and certifications, and rectifying any defects. And for the deliverables, it is important to mention the management plan, the risk and quality plan, budget, and finally, the construction and completion of the automated warehouse. Speaking of resources, we take into account both personnel and materials. In case of personnel, we have that the most important people for the project are the project manager, the worker manager, sponsors, suppliers, manufacturing engineer, advisory committee, business analyst, design manager, finance analyst, construction administration director, and construction director, of whom the titles of responsibility for the project are distributed as we can see in the rating metrics. And in terms of materials, we have that the most relevant resources are office supplies, computers, cell phones, facilities, software, blueprints, prototypes, certifications, permits, raw materials, construction equipment, machinery, and services. All these resources are fundamental for the development of the project.
Hello everyone, my name is Julio and I'm going to explain to you how we created the budget for the Continental project we created. First we had to understand how we were going to create this budget. So we had to be aware of the limitations that we had with our budget. For example, we couldn't go over $72 million, but also we needed to be aware of saving a reserve in case anything happens out of plan. And this reserve needed to be of $3,600,000. So we needed to take that into consideration for the construction of our budget. But also we needed to be aware of the resources that would be required. And this ranges from the office supplies and everything that we needed to create the WBS or the project charter, up to the electricity or other costs that could affect our budget, like the facilities we were working at. But also the next step was to identify how much we were going to pay to our personnel. And in order to do this, we needed to do some internet research in order to understand the average wage for each worker. And for example, we found out that for a project manager, the daily rate is of $450, or for an architect is of $300. And with these average costs, we could build the budget for the project. Finally, we needed to be aware of the warehouse we were constructing. We understood that we were working on a 23,000 meter squared facility. So we needed to contemplate the cost for building that warehouse and also the materials or special requirements required for the construction of the warehouse. And if we move to the next slide, you can see how the table, it is break down each cost. And don't worry about it, it looks a little bit messy, but you need to understand that our final cost was of $70,509,524. And we believe that this is a good budget because it doesn't go over $72 million, but it also takes into consideration, as I mentioned before, the reserve. Therefore, we have approximately $3 million in case anything happens, in case we need to apply any contingency plan in our project. And this is the final budget and how we constructed it.
We created the risk plan as a way of preventive measures in case something undesired happens. Here we have the way that we did that risk plan. We have here in a more visual way how we did it. We have here 3 of the main possible risks. We have here a delay on the raw materials, equipment, and machinery. The impact would be 5. It would be really critical for the project. The probability of it happening would be of 20%, and the value would be of 1. The strategy would be to accept it, and the actions would be to communicate with the suppliers in order to prevent delays and have all the equipment and machinery on time. So here we have the cost and resources, because here we have 0 extra cost because it will be included on the fixed cost, such as electricity, the phone. The way to communicate would be part of the free channels, such as the email, Zoom, WhatsApp, etc. And the contingency plan, we have here the plan B. It would be to find other suppliers that offer the same or similar type of products from the same price range that could be delivered on time. And with that, when that is done, to cancel the previous order. And now we have here the conclusions. We think that this project would be ideal for Continental because we planned it and created a control and risk plan with alternatives to ensure that everything results as well as it was planned. We also adjusted to the budget that Continental has, which would be also using good quality material and qualified personnel in order to complete the warehouse. So when that is done, we will have good resources for Continental because it will increase the presence in the country as well as to have an increase on sales. That would be all. Thank you.